classical world came to Afghanistan with Alexander the Great. Between 329 BC and 327, he conquered the area before moving into India. But he left behind him settlers, cities that he'd founded, and of course, being Greeks, they expressed their culture. The Greek legacy is so strong because their art is so divinely beautiful. The legacy of Greek art reached Afghanistan by sea and over land and came up into the places where Alexander had formerly ruled.
Ayhanum was a city that was founded by one of Alexander the Great's generals in 300 BC. It was really the furthest outpost of the Greek Empire.
We know so much of it from a Greek site of a big city on the banks of the river Oxus, miles away from Greece, as far as Tasmania from London, one feels. It had Greek statuary, it had a theatre, it had a gymnasium.
This is the director of the gymnasium, found at the far end of this building. He's very much of the tradition of Greek sculpture, and he would have probably paid for the gymnasium in the city of Ayhanum. It was here that the culture of Greece met with the local culture of Bactria, and thus formed this fusion between Greece and Bactria. This figure here is the statue of Heracles, who later became Hercules. His body is not as idealized as he would have appeared in Greece. These two female figures often accompany Dionysus. In Greece, they are depicted as very much human, two female human figures. But here, in the far-flung corners of Bactria, they've become almost bestialized. They're almost like little animals. They have horns and they have a skin which is almost like an animal skin.
We have the single most amazing monument I know, the most amazing thing in London at the moment. Well, that's a big claim, but I'll explain why. It's the base inscribed of what would have been a display of 150 little one-line sayings from the 7 wise men of the world on how we should behave. They're not very dramatic. When you're young, study hard. When you're a young man, be sober. Very good advice. When you're old, be wise. Die without pain. And that was found in the central shrine of the city. Unfortunately, the area became involved in the Civil War and the war with the Russians. And indeed, there was a mortar post just by the city lobbing rockets to people on the other side of the river Oxus. And when that was over, the site was cross-ploughed by people with bulldozers thinking that they could find treasure. This, of course, is disastrous. It destroys all the stratigraphy and the wonderful things that could have been found for Afghanistan of the future. I have been to Afghanistan. I've been 3 times. It breaks my heart to think of what is happening to some of the most wonderful people I've known in my lifetime. But you have to see the setting. You marvel at how an army 40,000 strong could have been brought into this area by the great commander, Alexander. Once you see the landscape, and once you stand, as I once stood, on the join of the Oxus and Koksha River, you simply think, I'm dreaming.